Roster cuts are finalized, the preseason is over, and football is almost back. And with that being said, the Lions are bringing back the Rams to Detroit, and with them, Matthew Stafford. It's going to be an epic rematch, folks, and we start talking about it now.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10, 5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. My friends, you guys have no idea how awesome it is to finally talk about the regular season. Oh my Lord, I am so glad that we are actually now at this point. We're no longer talking about who's making the roster. We're no longer talking about training camp practices. That's all dead, done, and over with. Now it's time to start talking about the regular season. Now it's time to start talking about strategies. Now it's time to start getting into potential film review. Now it's time to have some damn fun. Now, with that having been said, obviously, us Lions fans already know that the first game of the season, oh, good Lord. The schedule makers absolutely wanted to make sure the season started off with a bang for us. And with that being said, that means that the Lions, as we already know and have known, are going to be welcoming back the Rams to Ford Field for a Sunday night primetime game. And I'm going to say this right now. This is potentially, I think, the biggest matchup for the entirety of Week 1. I know some people are going to want to say, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers Monday night going up against the, 49ers after being out with the Achilles injury. Nobody gives a damn about Aaron Rodgers anymore. He's a prima donna, and I think he's washed up. The only other game I think that might top the Lions-Rams matchup would probably be the Ravens and the Chiefs matchup. But, hey, I don't give a thunder about that game either. I give a thunder about this one. And the reason why is because this matchup has got all of the freaking drama. It has all of the freaking storylines. It has all of the competitiveness, times 2. And the reason why I'm saying that is because not only is this game, freaking the start of the season, the Lions are going for the Super Bowl and all that, now it's also got everything that happened 8 months ago when we were in the wild card round facing the Rams then. Because when we were in that game, everybody said it, everybody knows it. That was an atmosphere that has seldom been seen in Detroit. And for good reason. Obviously, that was our first playoff win in 30-plus years. And the fact that that happened against Matthew Stafford, against the Rams, and all the storylines that went into that was an absolutely massive ordeal and a big accomplishment for Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, the whole Lions organization, and it was a huge release of emotion for Lions fans, both in terms of we finally won in the playoffs, but also it's like, okay, now we can officially move forward. The SOL days are, if anyone wanted to doubt, they were officially dead at that point. But now, with 9 days until the season opener against the Rams, like I said, arguably the biggest game for the freaking season opening week, in my opinion. And we're going to get another showing of Goff versus Stafford. This is now going to technically be match number 3. And even though this is going to be a huge game, this is not going to have the same stakes quite as much as what that game in the wild card was, because that was a sudden death playoff. And obviously, like I said, that was us trying to win our first playoff game in 30 years. So what I'm trying to say here is I'm not trying to diminish the importance of this game, but the stakes are nowhere near as high. But they're still pretty damn high, because this is our kickoff for our Super Bowl season, because that's the only thing the Lions are focusing on. Winning a damn Super Bowl. And it all starts by just absolutely destroying the hell out of the Rams on primetime Sunday night in 9 days. Now, when we're talking about this, obviously, the storylines, the narratives, all the drama, that's not going away. Like I said, if anything, it's going to get amplified. It's going to double down. And the reason why is because of all the damn history that has now been building up and occurring ever since that wild card matchup back in January. And there are at least three main storylines, three main things I'm thinking of that is going to make this game once again a huge deal. Obviously, we're going to start with the most prevalent one, and that's Goff versus Stafford. Regardless of how anybody wants to take this, regardless if you agree, regardless if you disagree, the point of the matter is that when it comes to the Lions and the Rams, it's always going to be, as long as these two guys are playing and as long as these two guys are starting, it is going to be a Goff versus Stafford show. And it's because Goff and Stafford forever are going to be linked because of the trade. And again, I'm just going to say this now. If we were having this conversation a couple of years ago when this whole thing went down, virtually nobody would have had this conversation, save a few. I would have been one of them, but I would have looked like, and I did look like, the lone crazy nut back in those days. Now I don't look so crazy. But the point of the matter is that ever since Goff won that, wild card bout and the Lions, got over the hump, this conversation has completely taken a completely different life of its own. Because first and foremost, let's again go down and take a look at how these two quarterbacks have done ever since the trade happened. Again, if you take a look at Jared Goff's numbers, he has done immensely well for himself ever since he's come to Detroit. He has the 11th highest completion percentage out of all active quarterbacks. He has the 4th most passing yards. He has the 7th most passing touchdowns. He has the 8th highest passer rating. He has a 24-23-1 regular season record as a quarterback, and he has a 2-1 postseason record as a quarterback. The regular season record, I think, is a bit of a misleading one because, one, the record is not necessarily reflective of the quarterback, even though that's a stat that gets put to them. But let's understand something here. When Jared Goff got here, he had to start from the bottom up. Like, literally, there was nothing for the Lions. Goff had to take a large amount of lumps when he first got here. And despite all that, he still got top 10 numbers ever since the trade. So, okay, Jared Goff done immensely well for himself. Now, let's take a look at Stafford. Obviously, we know Stafford already has a Super Bowl win. But take a look at the stats. Stafford has the 16th highest passing completion percentage since the trade. Even though it's a good completion percentage, compared to other quarterbacks, it's only about average. He has the 10th most passing yards, substantially less than Jared Goff. He's 8th in terms of passing touchdowns, pretty much right around where Goff is. The interceptions are substantially higher than Goff. The passer rating is lower than Goff. It's ranked 10th. And then, like I said, the regular season record for Stafford is 24-17. The post record is 4-1. Now, I know for a fact that any Rams fan that watches this, or any Stafford fan that watches this, is going to try and, downplay the fact of, oh, Stafford's numbers aren't as good as Goff, and they're going to be like, oh, well, like you said, that Stafford already has a Super Bowl, and, if Stafford hadn't gotten injured in freaking 2022, this wouldn't even be a conversation. Maybe, maybe not. There's no way to know. You can't all of a sudden just start throwing that out there and think that that's going to make a difference. We don't know because it didn't happen. But what we do know is this. How I discredit the fact of when people want to start talking about Stafford in this kind of manner is like, okay, here. Like I just said, Goff, in the fact that he's got better stats, has done better statistically than Stafford. He had to start from the bottom up. Again, I've used this analogy before, but when Goff, Holmes, Campbell, we all got here in 2021, there was nothing. Like, this roster was literally a skeleton with no bones. It was a skeleton with no meat, no muscle, nothing. Like, we had to start from the bottom up. And Goff had, like I said, to take his lumps, but he had to develop all of the weaponry that the Lions have. Think about it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamo, Laporta, Gibbs, Sewell. These are all guys over the course of the last 3, now going on 4 years, that Goff has had a hand in developing. Whereas, wait a minute here, what did Stafford have when he got out to L.A.? Oh, that's right. He had Cooper Kupp, He had OBJ. The only thing I can really say that he has developed is Puka Nacua, but he also had Higbee. He had Sean McVey. I mean, he had an all-star freaking cast as soon as he got out to L.A., and freaking the Rams, like I've said before, they mortgaged their entire, identity, future, everything just to win that one Super Bowl. And you know what? That's great. You know what? Rams got their Super Bowl. Congratulations. But ever since then, the Rams have not been the same. And my whole point here is that when we're talking about who's done better, it's got to be Goff, because Goff has done better with less. And he had to develop everything, whereas Stafford had everything given to him once he got there. But the whole point of the matter is, when we're putting this into the context of the game that's coming up in the next week and a half here, the point is that the only thing that's going to matter is that Goff is obviously gotten some sort measure of revenge against, McVey. He's been able to prove it. Hey, you know what? I can hold my own. I can win without that team. I can win without McVey, blah, 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 blah. But for Stafford, on the other hand, he's going to be trying to come back to Detroit. He's going to try and show up not only Goff, but he's also going to try and show up the Lions. And ultimately, he's going to try and show up the fans. Which, case would have it, leads us to our next point, the next main storyline that's coming up here. Stafford versus the fans. And I should actually say Staffords. And the reason I'm saying this is because, oh boy, this has become a drama series, a drama situation all into itself. That playoff game had a ton of freaking slights that were in it. And then ever since the playoff game, more stuff has happened. But I mean, you go back to that playoff game, there was a lot of slights, there was a lot of crap that was thrown towards Lions fans, and most of it, I'm going to say, was probably not even close to deserved. Think about it, folks. Go back to that playoff game. There's a reason why I said the Staffords, because most of this has to do with Kelly. Kelly was the one that got upset because some bozo Lions fan or somebody decided to post out on social media about how about we just ban Stafford jerseys from the game? The Lions never endorsed that. The Lions never supported that. The Lions never suggested that. But Kelly got her knickers in a twist and was like, oh, well, that's not right. That's not this. That's not that. And it's like, dude, it was never serious. But that was how that whole thing got started. And that then led into the fact that Kelly got upset because the Lions didn't give her a suite when she came back to Ford Field. And it's like, just because Stafford had been here for 12 years doesn't mean you automatically get a suite. It's a playoff game. Those suites have already been bought out. Those suites are already taken. Sorry about your bad luck, but it ain't going to happen. We're not going to kick out somebody who spent hella good money just because, you feel entitled and privileged. That's not how that works. Then, number three. Then after the whole thing happened with the game, Kelly then got angry because she thought that fans were booing her children. And it's like, dude, again, I've said this before. Even if that was the case, that would have only been for a few fans, because there were 67,000 fans in that building that night. And everybody and their brother knows that when the boos were happening, it wasn't directed at Kelly. It wasn't directed at their children. It was directed at Matthew. Plain damn simple. And then, after that, freaking Matthew, when he was at the press conference and, was talking with the media and everything, and he was asked about if he was happy for, the fans, for the team, and for the organization, for them winning the playoff game, he only said he was happy for the players. Didn't mention anything about us fans. Just completely overlooked us on that one, even though we had been with him since, forever. And then, like I said in a previous episode not that long ago, Matthew then also told the media that he didn't root for the Lions after they beat him as we were trying to go towards the Super Bowl. Even though us Lions fans, some of us decided to sell our very souls and become, freaking Detroit Rams fans with those stupid shirts. So yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that has happened because of that playoff game. And again, I would say about 95% of it has all originated from either Kelly or Matthew either saying or doing stuff that is just like, dude, you guys are being ridiculous. And the point is that with Stafford coming back here to Detroit for the second time in literally less than a year, because again, the playoff game was in January, it's going to be September. That's less than a year. All of these slights, all of these things that happened at that playoff game, they are still very fresh in everybody's mind. And so, I'm going to tell you this right now. Lions fans, they're going to want to start the season off on the right foot because, again, we're going for a Super Bowl. And the best way to start a Super Bowl season is to start it off with a win. But I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Stafford, again, is not going to be shown any love whatsoever. In fact, I'd be willing to bet the boos are going to be even louder, and I guarantee you there is going to be no quarter, no mercy given to him from the fans. And obviously, as I just mentioned, for damn good reason. So that's point number 2, or storyline number 2, whatever you want to call about it when we're going into this game. And yet another reason why the Lions are going to be wanting to destroy the Rams. And I'm talking about Lions team, Lions fans, the whole works. And then we get to the third storyline here. And for me, this one's a different one. This one's kind of a new one in my opinion. And that's Campbell versus McVey. Now, let's call it for what it is here. These two men are complete damn opposites. McVey is the golden boy, offensive guru, just genius that's all loved by the NFL, and, all the media just is in love with him. But this is a guy that has no problem that when things go wrong, he will throw his quarterbacks under the bus for failing rather than solely accepting responsibility. Oh, he might say, well, it's also on me too, but he's always quick to go after the quarterback. He's always quick because he did it with Goff, and he's done it with Stafford. Versus Dan Campbell, who, oh, that's right, Campbell is a player's coach. He gets down on the players' level. I mean, every freaking training camp, he starts it by doing up-downs with the players. Name me one other coach that does that one. And this is a guy that literally, ever since he's been hired by the Detroit Lions, the media has called him pretty much an idiot. They've called him a meathead. He doesn't know football, but the man is intelligent as hell. He's just he's a motivator. Now, why this is a storyline, why this is a narrative, and something that I think Lions fans and the Lions are definitely going to want to, center on a little bit, is because this is, for me at least, something that I've always noted. McVey has always had this complex about him that he doesn't like to look inferior to anyone. Hence why he always has had a long-standing rivalry and, at the time when it happened, a goal to win a Super Bowl before Shanahan, the coach of, the 49ers. However, when we're talking about it in this perspective, McVay's now dealing with a different kind of issue because, again, McVey has been constantly told, oh, he's an offensive guru, he's a quarterback whisperer. Like, any quarterback would love playing for him. He can make anybody win. But yet, McVey himself said that he couldn't win with Goff. That's why they shipped him out to Detroit. But yet, let's think about this here. Dan Campbell, who's a supposed meathead, doesn't know anything about football, he was able to help Goff make the Lions into a winner. Now, it wasn't just only Campbell. Let's not forget Ben Johnson in this equation. Ben Johnson is the best offensive coordinator in the entirety of the game, and he's a big reason also why this whole thing works. But the difference between Ben Johnson and McVey is that Ben Johnson actually respects the players. McVey berates, and he also blames them. But my whole point is this. Goff won in Detroit with, a coach that supposedly didn't know anything about football. So yeah, let that one sink in compared to McVey, who supposedly knows everything about offense and can whisper to quarterbacks and get them to play just on a massive level. The point of the matter is McVey is desperately going to want to win this one to kind of get some kind of personal satisfaction, I'm willing to bet. He's going to try and want to swing this back. So again, something else, because we know how the Lions players, they respect the hell and they love Jared Goff. They do not want to fail him. We saw that with freaking the locker room celebration last year when we won that playoff game. The players were literally chanting his name as he walked into the damn room. So, there's all those storylines, there's all that drama, there's all that nonsense that's coming into this game. And it's all good stuff as to why the Lions are going to want to beat, destroy, annihilate, dominate, whatever term you'd like to use, the damn Rams. Now, there's all those reasons, and there are plenty of good reasons in there. And I can guarantee you this, while I'm saying this, the players and coaches won't say it, obviously. They're professionals. They're not going to say anything like this. But what I can guarantee you, they're probably feeling this on some level. They can definitely, they're human too. They can feel stuff. And I guarantee you, on some level, they definitely feel it. So the question is, obviously the mission, obviously the goal is to destroy the Rams, to beat the Rams, to start the season, the Super Bowl road season, on the right foot. But how do the Lions convincingly spank the Rams on Sunday night? There are 3 things they have to do just right off the bat, and these are the big 3 in my opinion. The first thing they have to do is they have got to take full advantage of no Aaron Donald. The fact that Aaron Donald is not out there, oh my Lord, that is a huge, huge loss for the Rams, and it's a huge difference and a massive bonus for the Lions. Think about this, folks. Aaron Donald was a guy that literally you had to double team him, sometimes triple team him on every single damn down. Now he's not in there anymore. And our offensive line is the best in the business. So with no Aaron Donald out there, we have the best offensive line. What do you think we're going to need to do here? That's right. We're going to want to run the ball. And not just to set up play action, not to set up the pass, but we're going to want to run the ball down the Rams' throat because it's going to be crucial to set everything up, but to also serve as a psychological debilitator. There is nothing more depressing, there is nothing more saddening to a defense that cannot stop the run and constantly just gets bulldozed over. It is a psychological warfare. I can guarantee you that. So again, take full advantage of no Aaron Donald. Just absolutely destroy the Rams through the run game. That's number 1. But number 2, which plays off of number 1, you've got to unleash the 3-headed monster. And what am I referring to? I'm referring to Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm referring to Jameson Williams, and I'm referring to Sam Laporta. Because think about this, folks. Jared Goff is a menace when he is comfortable in a pocket. And obviously, the Lions, like I just said, they have the only elite offensive line in the NFL, and there's no Aaron Donald, which pretty much means Jared Goff should be comfortable as the gold in freaking Fort Knox. He's not going to get harassed at all, or if he does, it's going to be very little. Think about this also. When Jared Goff is at home, he is probably the best quarterback there is. He is surgical at home in how he carves up defenses. He just is on a completely different level. When you consider all that, think about this too. The Rams have a new defensive coordinator. Remember, Raheem Morris, who was their defensive coordinator last year, he went out and became the head coach for the freaking, if I recall correctly, the Atlanta Falcons. So they're dealing with a completely different new defensive scheme. They're dealing with a completely new defensive coordinator. And the Lions, on the other hand, they've been in the same offensive scheme, the same offensive system now for 3 years. So they know everything they need to know about their offense. They're secure, they're knowledgeable, they're confident. And they're at home. So it would behoove, as we say in the Army, to let Amon-Ra St. Brown, let Jameson Williams, let Laporta, and I would even say let Gibbs go out there and just carve up that freaking secondary. Just let them loose and flood that secondary and let Jared Goff do what he does best. Just shred that secondary to freaking pieces like a freaking surgeon. Just absolutely have at it. Because that right there is what our offense does best. We run and then we freaking shred you through the air. We have the ability to do both and we do them pretty damn well. And then there's the final way that we are going to destroy, I believe, the Rams. And this one is something that I had to think about, but it's the truth. Make Stafford miserable. And what do I mean by this? We already know the Lions' defensive line is going to have massive opportunities to get after Stafford. Our interior defensive line, probably one of the best in the business. Freaking Hutch is one of the best at edge. But I found this out. And the reason why this is going to make a lot of sense is just think about this. We already know that the Rams are not going to have their starting left tackle, their blindside tackle, because he's been suspended for 2 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct code. But on the same hand, Jonah Jackson is still dealing with a shoulder injury, and he's their starting center. Think about this, folks. Jonah Jackson in the middle of the freaking offensive line, and wait a minute here, who's going to be in the middle of the defensive line? It's either going to be Aleem McNeil or it's going to be DJ Reader, or potentially both. So an injured Jonah Jackson for a shoulder injury against those 2 monsters? Yikes! And then, think about this to add further insult to injury. Literally. The right tackle, I think Harvenstein, he's dealing with a foot injury. Which, oh, that's right, the right side of the offense is where frickin' Hutch lines up 90% of the time. So, yeah, Hutch is about to have a day where he can feast and terrorize. Because if the right tackle has a foot injury, that means he's going to be slower getting out of his, his frickin' stances and breaks. Which means Hutch is going to have the ability to get the jump on him quite a bit. So, combine all that with a very hungry, very opportunistic secondary with, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Rakestraw, Amik Robertson, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch. They all got something to prove. They're all going into that game very hungry as hell, and they're going to be looking to get turnovers. It's going to potentially be a very long night for Matthew Stafford. With all the freaking crowd noise, with everybody coming after him, both, in terms of the boos, but also in terms of the players on the field. Oh yeah, this has all the earmarks potentially of this could get ugly. This could be a very interesting game, and not in the way some people I think are thinking. But anyway, folks, I just decided to put this episode together because the more I thought about it, I was like, man, this could be a really, really big game for the Lions in more ways than one. And a really great way to start the season. But I'm going to end the episode because I think I've had enough fun with this. But having said that, I just want to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things. Like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you not had a chance to do so, make sure you please hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. I also want to encourage y'all to share the content as well. Make sure you share here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. Share wherever and everywhere you possibly can. And share with anybody and everybody you can. Because the more we can share it, the greater the channel has a reach, the greater the channel can spread, and that allows us to bring in even more content viewers. And with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the content. I hope you all are having a great day. And whether you've been a long-time viewer or you're a new-time viewer, I just want to say God bless. I hope you all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next episode.